Okay, it's 4:03, so we're going to go ahead and get started now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second set of prescription drug abuse webinars. As many of you already know, my name is Ivan Tong, and today's topic is going to be all about the science behind addiction. I'd like to first thank our AwarenessRx research team who worked really hard for the entire last semester to prepare this information for the presentation team, us, to share. And so the presentation team consists of Aditya R., Dennis C., Matangi P., David H., and Nathan L. They not only gathered all the information that you're going to see, but they also graphic designed many of these images that you'll see here on this slide and throughout the presentation. And so I just wanted to give them credit for their great work. I would also like to remind you to participate in our discussions and activities that we'll have for the webinar. So we had some people not earn credit last time, even though they attended the entire thing, simply because they didn't actively participate. And I don't want that to happen to you. And so moving forward, last time we talked about a bunch of different aspects of prescription drug abuse. But today we're going to focus on addiction because of how misunderstood it is. So like last time, we had an introduction question. And so right now, I just want to see what do you guys think about this? So raise your hand electronically if you've ever seen how badly drug addiction has ruined someone's life and thought, well, why don't they just stop? And so just to repeat, go ahead and raise your hand if you've ever thought this. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of hands raised. So yes, I used to think this too. You know, since many of us have not ever abused drugs, it's hard to understand their point of view. It's difficult to put ourselves in their shoes when we've never been in a situation like that before. We see the negative outcomes, and from a neutral and logical perspective, we would think that they should, of course, stop consuming those drugs. But addiction really isn't that simple. Addiction is an extremely complex topic and prevents people from, just stopping or stopping cold turkey, as some people put it. So keep this in mind as we go through different information today. Okay, so here's our agenda for today. First, we're going to learn about the pathway to addiction, how someone becomes addicted in the first place. Then we'll talk about an example in which a pharmacist became addicted and apply what we learned to that situation. We'll have a few key takeaways, and then finally we'll play some interactive games. And so the importance of this webinar is just to understand that understanding addiction will help drug addicts get the help they need without being shunned by society. And it will also prevent us from being addicted as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to Jenna, who is going to be our first AwarenessRx speaker of today.
Thanks, Ivan. Hi, guys. My name is Jenna. Nice to see you guys. Today, I'm going to dive deeper into the pathway to addiction and what causes people to act the way they do when they're addicted. So the first step on the pathway to addiction is exposure. There are multiple types of exposure, and today we're going to talk about 3. First is accidental, when the person grows dependent of a drug over time. Second is ignorance, when the person ignores the dangers. And third is peer pressure, when the person feels pressured. So let's talk about accidental exposure first. So as we know, many people might take the wrong dosage purely by accident or may unknowingly become addicted because they take a greater amount of the drug they're prescribed. For example, a patient recovering from an injury may take a greater dosage of the pain medication to alleviate the pain, but they don't realize that by doing this, their body is getting more used to the drug in a process called drug tolerance. This becomes a huge problem, but we'll get more into that in a bit. So the second type of exposure is through ignorance. Many people are just simply uneducated on the subject of medication, which is why we're here to teach you. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, more than 5,700 youth adults in 2014 reported using prescription pain relievers without a doctor's guidance for the first time. This really boils down to just people not being aware on the dangers of drugs. We want to emphasize that although prescription medication is designed to be good, it's definitely not 100% safe. It's very easy to get addicted when you don't know the dangers behind the medication. Our last type of exposure we'll talk about is peer pressure. As you guys know, peer pressure is just the direct influence on a person by their peers, where an individual is encouraged to possibly partake in dangerous activities. Just know how to set boundaries and just say no. Once again, just say no to drugs. This will conclude the first step in the pathway to addiction, exposure. The next step on the pathway to addiction is drug tolerance. But first, what is drug tolerance? So basically, drug tolerance happens when a person no longer responds to a drug in the same way they did initially. It takes a higher dose of the drug to achieve the same effect as when the person first used it. In other words, the body becomes acclimated to the drug. So what does this mean? After regularly using a substance, your body adapts so that the drug has a lower effect. Your body becomes used to the substance, so in order to feel the same effects, you need to take a greater amount. This encourages the drug user to take more and more, which consequently increases the risk of overdosing and death. This cycle of increasing your drug intake repeats and essentially fuels the cycle of addiction. Our next stop on the pathway to addiction is drug dependence. Drug dependence is the body's dependency on a drug. The removal of the drug from the body at this point often leads to withdrawal. Here's an example of what drug dependence could look like. So let's say you frequently take prescription drugs, and then you suddenly just stop one day. You may begin to experience bouts of anxiousness and other negative symptoms. And as a result, you might crave to take more prescription drugs to get rid of these negative symptoms. This is what withdrawal is like. So now we're going to watch a short video on how withdrawal feels. And even though this is a video on opioid withdrawal, the concept is the same with all types of drugs.
I thought I was going to die.
Every cell in my body hurt.
I don't think I've ever felt so sick in my whole life.
I would have done anything to make it stop. So I took more oxys, and it did.
These are the voices of people who have used opioids and have felt the pain of withdrawal. Opioids are powerful medication. People either take medication prescribed for pain or use illegal versions like heroin. Not only do opioids block pain, but they provide a wave of pleasant feelings known as a rush. These two benefits combined make people want to take them and keep taking them. Withdrawal is the process of a substance leaving the body. When a drug has been used a long time or in greater amounts to get the same result, the feelings you have when you stop taking it also become stronger. It's like your body is wondering where the drug went, and it complains. For some drugs like alcohol, withdrawal symptoms can be deadly. In the case of opioids, they're not life-threatening, but they can be very hard to tolerate. So what does opioid withdrawal feel like? It can feel a lot like a bad case of the flu, and if you think about that, it makes sense. Opioids make you feel relaxed, comfortable, mellow, and pain-free. Withdrawal symptoms feel entirely opposite. You might feel agitated and short-tempered, or anxious and worried. Your sleep can be messed up with trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. You might start sweating and trembling with goosebumps, and your muscles may ache all over. The pain that the opioid helped take away might come back, but worse than you remember it. Your stomach may feel unsettled, and you might have diarrhea or even vomit. People hate it. They crave the opioid, and they find themselves taking it again to get rid of the withdrawal symptoms. People can easily begin to rely on opioids and keep taking them. Many people start taking opioids to take away their pain, and that can spiral into a real problem when they try to take more opioids to stop the withdrawal symptoms. This can lead to opioid use disorder. If you or someone you love needs more of an opioid with the same effect on your pain, or if you have had withdrawal symptoms and have taken the medicine again to feel better, please be careful and ask for help. Talk to your provider. There is a lot of evidence that effective treatment programs can help keep withdrawal symptoms controlled and can help people reduce or discontinue using opioids. Even though difficult withdrawal symptoms can be the sign of a problem, it can also be the start of adjusting treatment or stopping use altogether. Recovery is possible for everyone.
All right, so as you guys can see, it's really not easy to be in withdrawal. On top of physical symptoms, one can start to feel depressed, anxious, short-tempered, inexplicably tired, and even have mental breakdowns. But as the video says, we can work together to stop this. So next, of course, after dependence and withdrawal is the last stage, drug addiction. At this point, the drug abuser gains a compulsive desire to find more drugs to take, no matter the cost, risking everything by forfeiting their money and personal assets. This is a loss of self-control, and it is vital for the drug abuser to get help as soon as possible. So as someone tries to stop or recover from addiction, they may fall into relapse. Relapse means a return to regular use. An example of relapse might be a smoker who's trying to quit smoking, experiencing withdrawals, and returning to regular use of cigarettes. Although it's not guaranteed that a drug addict will have a relapse, relapses are both common and normal for those recovering from addiction. So sometimes people might confuse addiction with dependence. So what is the difference? There's a lot of information here that you can read, but the main difference you need to know is that addiction has a compulsive mental component while dependence does not. All right, so that will complete our roadmap on the pathway to addiction. Number 1, exposure, 2, drug tolerance, 3, drug dependence, and 4, drug addiction. All right, I know that was a lot of information, but let's keep all of it in mind as we go through an interactive question. So the question we have for you guys right now is, what is the correct order of the pathway to addiction? Give your best guesses in the chat. If you guys need help, the 4 steps are in the background of this slide. As a reminder, I'd just like to say we are keeping track of who is participating just for attendance purposes, so make sure you guys are participating. Thank you. All right, thank you guys for your guesses. So the correct order as seen in the previous slide is exposure, tolerance, dependence, and then addiction. So good job to everybody who got that right. This cycle pertains to the way we teach it, but other sources may define it differently. This will conclude my section of speaking. Next up is Hangman.
Thanks, Jenna. Hi, my name is Amar, and we're going to take a quick break from all this information, and we're going to play a game of Hangman. So we're going to split out into breakout rooms, and the AwarenessRx speakers will guide the activity. So for this, we'd like for everyone's camera and mic to be on throughout this activity, and we'll be documenting who is participating. All right, so now for the rules of our Hangman game, or the instructions, you could say. All words are related in one way or another to the process of addiction. Hints will be provided. And the way points are going to work is we're going to have 1 point for every letter guessed correctly, and 3 points if you guess the word/words correctly. In order to try and guess the entire word or words, you must raise your electronic hand. And for our actual hangman, we're going to have the head, the body, 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth.
Also, I also want to note that if you do win the hangman thing, you will earn extra credits for your organization. Okay, and so now go ahead and join your breakout rooms. You should receive a notification. Okay. And so I hope you guys have some fun. Okay. Hey guys. So just a quick reminder before we begin. Please have your cameras on and mics unmuted throughout the entire thing, because I just want it to be a little more casual and like less formal. Dang, Anthony, where are you?
I'm at the gym.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. All right, multitasking at its finest.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So rules are simple. We're literally just gonna be playing hangman. Actually, wait, let me move it to this side. And so we're gonna do this for around like 5 minutes before we go back into the room. Okay. Can you guys see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So we're gonna start with the first word. Let me just make sure I get it right because I kind of messed this up quite a bit. And so I'm basically just gonna call on you guys in the order that I see you. And yeah, and then so I'm just gonna ask for you to give me a letter. Just straightforward hangman. So I guess Aditya, why don't you start us off?
D.
Hmm?
Is there a D?
Is there an E? Actually, wait, let me make sure I actually got it right. Hold on.
D.
Okay.
Yeah.
So E. One,
But
two.
Ivan, I said D.
Oh, D. Okay, D. That is not correct. Okay. David.
E.
E. Nice. There is an E. Oh, by the way, the hint for this will be that this is one of the stages to addiction. It's one of the stages that we talked about. Okay. Okay. What about Chloe?
Is the word tolerance?
Dang, you are nice. Okay. Okay. That was unexpected, but nice. The word is tolerance. Wow. All right, so David got 1 point, Chloe has 3. That was really fast. Holy crap. Okay. Dang. Okay, so yes, the word is tolerance. And so tolerance is basically when your body just becomes more used to that drug and you have to start taking more of it in order to feel that same effect. Okay. All right, let's do, okay. We can do this one. This one will be a little more tricky. Actually, I don't think you guys would get it, but we'll try it. Okay. So, and then it's actually 2 words. And so the hint for this is that this is what differentiates addiction from tolerance. I mean, no, addiction from dependence. So they're both very similar, but there's one key difference. Okay. Since Chloe answered the last one, how about David? Oh, David Ha. Sorry, David Ha.
I was confused. It was like me.
My bad. David Ha, go ahead and give me a letter.
A.
A? Wrong. There is no A. Okay. Did I call Anthony yet? Anthony, did you go?
There, not yet. Sorry. Let's go for E.
E? Okay. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt your reps.
No, you're
E,
fine.
there is an E. Desire. So, okay. Okay. How about Christina?
Is there an M?
Let's see. There is an M. Nice. So, 1. Okay. Let's see. What about Amon? I'm trying to get through everyone. The groups are kind of big. Amon, you can give me a letter.
Is there a T?
T. There is no T.
Okay.
Yeah. Good try though. Shreya.
N.
N. There is no N. All right. Just to repeat the hint again. I mean, it's a pretty hard word, but just maybe help you guys out a little bit. So this is what differentiates addiction from dependence. If you guys remember, it was gone by. It was explained pretty quickly, so it's okay if you don't know it. What about Renee?
D.
D. Yes, there is 1 D. Okay, nice. Is it Oriel? Did you give me a letter? I'm sorry if I didn't say your name correctly. Oriel? Oh, are you typing in the chat? If you type in the chat, let's see. You can also type it too.
Wait, Oreo, if you're I saw you were unmuted. If you were talking, we couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
So I guess you can just type your answer in the chat.
R. There is an R. Yes. Wait, who was the last person? I think I forgot to keep track of.
Yeah, Renee has one.
Renee. Okay. This is so messy. I'm sorry. Okay. So yes, there is an R right here. Okay. And so to try to get everyone else a winning chance who already got it correct, I'm gonna go to David again. David A. To give me a letter.
I.
Okay. And also to make it a little like easier, if you get a letter correct, you can go again. So let's keep trying to find more. So you can go give another letter. Oh, I. It is right here.
If I guess, can I just say it out loud? Like a guess for the whole word?
You can guess. Do you have like the entire thing or just this last word?
I think the entire thing.
Okay, then go for it.
Is it compulsive desire?
Yes, that is correct. Nice. It is a compulsive desire. So like it's like an uncontrollable desire to have the drug. Wow, very nice. Okay, so who was that? I didn't see. I'm sorry.
Christina.
Christina. Okay.
Yeah, my camera's broken. Sorry about that.
That's okay. 4. Okay. I think I'm sorry. Like we're really short on time. That was like a pretty short game, Hangman. And so Christina, you will be the one to receive ours. I'm sorry, Chloe, that I did give you another chance. But we're really short on time right now.
Wow.
But thank you guys for participating. It made it a lot easier. Okay. Anyways, we will go back to the main room shortly. Okay.
Thank you guys for participating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just gonna wait a little bit for everybody to come back. Feels like a little more interesting than just listening to the information. Right on.
Ivan, you just cut off our hangman.
I'm sorry, what?
Just cut it off.
I'm sorry. We were like running
Okay,
low
but
on
for those of y'all that were in my group, Ria won. So congratulations, you'll have an extra hour.
Were you guys like close or do you guys like just start?
We were on like the fourth or fifth word.
Oh dang, really? Okay, so I think everybody should be back by now. I hope that was like, a little more interesting. Right now I just want to see, because this is something new that we're trying out, right? And so go ahead and like leave a reaction. You should be able to react in Zoom and just to see how what your thought of that activity. It could be just honest opinion. It's not going to affect you in any way. If you thought it was like interesting, fun, boring, awkward. So just leave any kind of reaction. Let's see. Like so far I just see thumbs up. That smiley face I can't see. Okay, so hopefully we can do some more like activities like that in like future presentations, future webinars. Okay, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic. Oops, sorry. Go ahead and pass the mic to Daniel. He's going to talk about he's going to show you his video, and I'll let him talk about it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ivan. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel, and originally I was going to read you a pretty long story consisting of more than 5 pages about a pharmacist who suffered from a drug addiction. Well, then eventually I decided that, you know what, maybe I should just film a short movie for you guys to watch, hoping that it will be somewhat more interesting. So hope you enjoy.
Do you mind telling us about your experience as a pharmacist?
Yeah. Well, to start my story, we'll have to go all the way back to when I first started as a pharmacist early on in my career. I was young and determined. I got into the pharmaceutical career with the determination and the mindset of helping people. And for every patient that I've seen, I've always strived to serve the highest level of treatment. Unfortunately, years later, I began to realize that there was a certain group of patients that were abusing their doctor-patient privilege. Those patients with a strong dependency of prescription opioids, when they plead, my ears turn deaf, and I would just ignore all their demands and excuses. Unfortunately, one day when I was driving on my way to work, I was involved in a car accident, which resulted in only some neck and back pain. The next day I went to see my doctor and got a prescription, due to which I felt wonderful. It was my first encounter with opioid, and this medication felt amazing. It really energized and motivated me. And after my first prescription was gone, I was given a refill. Although the muscle damage from the accident had already healed, I had a new illness to worry about, which at that time I was totally unaware of. After that, I started helping myself to a ready stock of prescription shelves instead of writing fake prescriptions, since only a few missing pills would just basically go unnoticed. So, I continued to go back and get the pills repeatedly, and the first sign that something was wrong hit me when I felt terrible with these withdrawal symptoms. I just didn't feel right. I felt terrible. My whole body just felt bad. I mean, I tried to stop taking the pills, but whenever I try to last more than 1 day without taking it, my bones start to begin aching and having enormous amount of pain. I was sweating a lot, and I was constantly alternating between hot and cold flashes. I really tried. I did really try to avoid taking pills with everything I could think of, including self-treatment with other drugs or even alcohol. But nothing I tried did me any good. Eventually, I was offered a new job at a new town, and I would figure that, this might be a new opportunity for me to start fresh. However, I was back where I had left off in a matter of only a few days. Before I knew it, I was taking 10 or 3 times the amount of pills a day. I wasn't taking the pills to feel high anymore, honestly. I was just taking it to feel normal again. Those around me eventually started to notice these big changes around my entire body. Over the course of just a few short months, I had dropped 50 pounds. My skin was really pale, and my eyes, I had blurry visions. I couldn't really concentrate. I've always had nausea, and sometimes I would even vomit. I went to the doctor, and they said that I was severely malnourished, and my loved ones encouraged me to seek medical treatments, but to me, their pleas just fell to my deaf ears again, just like my patients.
Hello?
Yeah, he came in to his new job, and initially when I saw him, he was very pale. He looked very sick and looked like he was in desperate need of help. In fact, as the days went by, he was vomiting almost, and as a coworker, I initially, wasn't there, but the more I got to know him, the more I encouraged him to seek medical attention.
At that time, my personality had dramatically changed along with physical changes. I was dissatisfied and impatient and honestly overwhelmed with all the paranoia and anxiety. I have received numerous calls at that time from friends and family members asking me if I was okay and if there's something they could do for me, but in the end, I just brushed them all off. I realized deep inside that I was a drug addict and that there was honestly no hope for me. I assumed that I would probably get arrested, lose my career, and might lose my family. And I couldn't think a way out of this deep, dark pit I dug for myself. Then eventually, I thought about it, and I decided I should just come clean and admit that I had a problem to someone while I still have the chance, while I still have just an ounce of control over my life. So I picked up the phone and called the Professional Recovery Network, PRN, some people may call it, and I self-reported with just tears in my eyes. On the other end of the call, I told the case manager what I've done and that I needed help with my addiction and wanted to get out of the mess I had made for myself. My life changed for the better on that day, to be honest. With the encouragement and assistance of PRN, I was able to successfully detox of all the drugs. They enlisted me into this program, which was for me every step of the way and gave me the support that I needed in this field while recovering from the drug abuse. A few months later, I entered an approval board order with the Texas State Board of Pharmacy, and the PRN was there by my side as I navigated through the process. I'm glad to say that just a few years later, I am a different person who had grown from my past and is hopeful for my future. My pharmacy license today is free of any disciplinary action, and now I am the management position within my company. As long as I don't lose sight of my past and where I came from to where I am today, for those who do the right things, anything is possible. And honestly, I am a living proof of that. The disease of addiction can happen to anyone, so please do not ignore the warning signs. Be mindful of this issue and take a step to change your life or a peer's life before the worst happens to them. If you knew me today, you might never realize that. Thanks to the hard work of PRN, I once suffered from an addiction. I prefer to keep it that way, so I remained anonymous for the purpose of this post. But no, I am just like you.
So Daniel is going to lead us through of just a few follow-up questions on this video.
Okay, everyone. I hope you enjoy that film. Now I'll be asking you guys a few questions to put your answers in the chat. And remember, we will be checking. So the first question is, Ivan. There we go. Okay. What was he addicted to? Leave your answers in the chat, please. Okay. 100% everyone said opioids, which is correct. He was in fact addicted to opioids. And the second question is, was he a surgeon or a pharmacist? This should be fairly easy, but you know. Okay. And again, everyone, 100%. Good job, everyone. Yes, he was in fact a pharmacist. And the third one, this one might be a little hard, but how many pounds did he lose? Wow, okay. Again, everyone got it correct. It appears I underestimated you guys, but good job, everyone. 50 pounds, indeed, he did lose 50 pounds. Now, I am going to hand it over to Ayush, who will be analyzing the video. Take it away, Ayush.
All right, thank you, Daniel, and I hope you guys are enjoying the presentation so far. Now, as said earlier, drug tolerance is when the body adapts and lessens the effect of the drug, thus requiring more intake in order to feel the same effects as originally. This stage was shown in the pharmacist's narrative when he had started to take more pills from the shelves every day just in order to feel normal. Due to the tolerance his system developed to the drug, he felt like he needed to take more pills so that he could feel better. The body relies on the drug to function properly, so much so that it can cause extreme and horrific symptoms when the body is deprived of the drug. This was shown in the story when he talked about his severe malnourishment, physical changes, and his constant state of sickness when he tried to stop taking the pills. Drug addiction is a stage where the drug abuser's body constantly craves the drug to the point where they would lose their self-control and would take many risks just to have their drugs. The pharmacist experienced this when he was taking 10 pills 3 times a day and could not function without his drugs. But thankfully, he reached out for help from the PRN and was able to fully recover from his addiction. And the last stage that I'll be analyzing is drug withdrawal, which can happen at different stages and are the symptoms that occur when an individual stops or slows down their drug intake. These symptoms occurred when the pharmacist tried to reduce his intake and become extremely sick. Like he said, his drug withdrawal symptoms were not only physical, but also mental and emotional, as seen in his drastic change in energy, personality, and attitude. So let's see what you guys think. Do you think addiction is a disease? Simply type a yes or no in the chat. Okay, So almost everyone said yes, except for a couple people who said no. But the correct answer is yes, addiction is a disease. It is a chronic illness accompanied by significant changes in the brain. Addiction does not occur because of moral weakness or a lack of willpower or an unwillingness to stop. Progressive changes in the brain drive the compulsive, uncontrollable drug use known as addiction. When this happens, individuals can no longer voluntarily choose to not use drugs or alcohol. Now, addiction is not something that you catch and simply take medicine to cure. It's way more permanent than that. An addict experiences severe mental trauma and often finds it hard to separate themselves from the drug. And you'll find out more about that in this wonderful video.
Say the word addiction, and drugs such as alcohol, heroin, and cocaine often come to mind. But other substances like nicotine, marijuana, and prescription pain medications can also be addictive. So can certain activities such as gambling and sex. Whatever the case, addiction involves craving and a loss of control, with the substance use or activity continuing even if it causes harm. This can include problems with relationships, jobs, school, money, or your health. Addiction is not due to weakness or a lack of willpower. Instead, it's a chronic disease involving changes in the brain. There, billions of nerve cells or neurons communicate through a series of signals and chemical messengers. When messages leave one neuron, they attach to a receptor on the receiving one, like a key fitting into a lock. In addiction, this communication process is disrupted. Large amounts of a brain chemical called dopamine are released, overwhelming receptors and resulting in the high that people experience. To keep that feeling going, they take the drug or engage in the behavior again and again. Eventually, the brain changes and adapts, driving them to seek out more just to get the same feeling. That's called tolerance. Stopping a substance can cause withdrawal symptoms such as nausea, tremors, depression, or severe anxiety. Taking too much of a substance or a combination of substances can result in an overdose and serious illness, or even death. Young people are especially vulnerable to addiction. The impulse control center of their brains, known as the prefrontal cortex, isn't fully developed, making them more prone to risky behavior. And using substances can cause lasting harm to their developing brains. If you think your child might be experimenting with substances, talk to them about it. Parents can help by taking a strong stand against substance use and teaching their kids healthier ways to deal with life's stresses. Like any other disease, such as diabetes or asthma, addiction can be successfully treated. So if you or someone you know has a problem with addiction, talk to your doctor, a mental health professional, or an addiction specialist. Getting help may save a life.
Okay, so I hope you guys liked the video. And our next slide is going to talk about how sick people can't stop being sick. Addiction is characterized by two types, psychological and physiological. Psychological addiction is when you become mentally dependent on a substance, which can change your behavior. In this state, people will have a mental or emotional attachment to a substance and would do anything to get it. And not getting what they want can lead to disruptive behavior and emotions. And on the other hand, physiological addiction is when you repeatedly use a drug until you become so dependent on it to the point that your body can no longer function without it. When these drugs are introduced to your body, it will create its own chemical reactions to counter the effects of the drugs. Over time, your body will stop creating its reactions and develop a tolerance to the drug. Now, why don't you just stop taking drugs? A common misconception is when learning about addiction is that people can simply stop using their drugs. However, that isn't true. As mentioned earlier, addiction is a disease. Even if an addict isn't taking the drug out of pleasure or addiction, they could be dependent on it and require it to function normally. Although it isn't a prescription drug, a good example of dependence is coffee. People who drink it every day find it extremely hard to stop since their body has become dependent on it. In fact, that's why people experience withdrawal symptoms. If they just stop taking the drug, Their body will not be able to function normally, and they may feel tired, depressed, or even become frustrated due to them not being able to meet their needs. Now for a discussion question. Is addiction a psychological or physiological disease? Type your answer in the chat. Okay, so good job. Most people put both, and that's the correct answer. As mentioned in the previous slides, addiction isn't just psychological or physiological. It's a mixture of both because you can be affected both physically and mentally if you stop taking drugs all of a sudden. Now I'll hand it over to Mandy, who's going to give you the takeaway.
Thanks, Ayush. Hi, I'm Mandy, and I will now discuss what you should take away from this presentation. Addiction is a serious problem, especially within our generation, so it is super important that you pay close attention to the following slides to protect yourself and others. You may be wondering, how can drug abuse affect you? Saying something like, oh, that could never happen to me. However, after finding out that even a pharmacist abuses these drugs, can you really say that this can never happen to you? Prescription drug addiction can easily happen to anyone, whether it's you directly or through the people around you. And it's not that simple to just stop. You can't just go up to someone and be like, hey, drugs are bad and you're gonna die if you don't stop. Prescription drug addiction is a disease that affects both the human mind and body. And if you know someone that suffers from prescription drug addiction, wait, Ivan. Sorry about that. If you know someone who suffers from prescription drug addiction, be sympathetic without being rude, derogatory, or blameful in any way. Encourage the person in need to seek help from a trusted professional, and do activities together to dissuade their mind from the drug addiction. And the best way to recover from a drug addiction is seeking professional and personal help. With the mental instabilities that can come with addiction, it can be difficult to make rational decisions. And that's why we advise that if you're currently suffering from drug addiction, seek these following places and people for help, including rehabilitation centers, hospitals, calling someone like a family member, a friend, or a helpline. And if you're a student, you may find a trusted adult. But remember, help is more likely to come to you if you only call for it. Sometimes people shy away from receiving help in fear of embarrassment or anxiety, but if nothing's done, things can turn for the worse. So if you need help, please contact someone you trust. Recovery can be an intense and difficult process as your body starts to have withdrawals. Although it can take several months or even years, with enough courage and perseverance, you can still fully recover. During this process, relapse is likely to happen, but it's never impossible to recover. This means a person might have to make drastic changes in their diet, environment, and lifestyle. And with these drastic changes, recovery can take a huge emotional and mental toll on the body. Thus, it is essential to provide support and monitor the physical, mental, and emotional health during recovery, and make sure to look out for signs of relapse. And remember, prevention is a key solution to protect yourself from prescription drug addiction. You are in control of your actions and decisions, so it's important you stay rational. It is much easier to prevent yourself from getting addicted by monitoring your drug intake than breaking out of the cycle of addiction. So some methods of prevention: 1, do not partake in any drug challenges or be peer pressure into doing something you don't want. Your overall current and future health beats any social circumstance. 2, only take prescription medications that are prescribed to you. Taking someone else's medication can cause adverse health effects because your body may not be built for the ingredients in the substance. 3, only take the amount of prescription prescribed and follow directions carefully. If you're told to take 1 pill a day but see no results, just take 1, trust your doctor. And lastly, if you or someone you know is suffering from emotional conflicts, rather than resorting to drugs, find a different and much more healthier way to cope with those emotions. Doing things such as finding a hobby or talking to the people you love can distract you from unwanted feelings. And doing the following will not only protect yourself, but protect and save millions of people in the world. And here's some of our sources, and I'll now pass it on to Amar.
All right, so now in the Zoom poll, please select how difficult you think it is to break out of the cycle of addiction for most people.
Sorry, my bad. I thought we were going to the Kahoot like right after. So the poll should be open, and so go ahead and leave your vote there.
All right, so as we can see from these results, majority of you guys do think that it is extremely difficult to treat addiction, and that is because it is a disease. It's not something that you can just snap out of. Now we're going to finish up our webinar with a Kahoot.
So give me 1 second to set up the Kahoot. Also, I'm sorry, we will go a little bit over time, but it should be more than like 5 minutes. Okay, so here's the code, and go ahead and join. Okay, so wait just a little bit longer. I don't know what happened to the music, it just stopped for no reason. So wait for like, I don't know, 30 more seconds, give or take, and then we'll go ahead and start. Let's see, I see 20 people in there so far, so we're still missing a few people. So make sure you guys join. Also try to put your real name so that when we go through this later, we can account for attendance. So yeah, thank you. I don't know how to use it. Okay, let's go ahead and start.
So what is the definition of drug addiction? So yes, the answer is a compulsive desire to take more and more drugs. And this is because it doesn't really matter if the drug is legal or not. It's just the desire to take more drugs. So select two answers for this one. What are the two different types of exposures? But good job to those of you who got it right. This is based off of what was in the PowerPoint, and we typically like to say that intentional kind of falls underneath ignorance. And it's kind of same with psychological. What is drug tolerance? So good job to everyone who got that right. It is basically when a drug just has less of an effect over time because of how much you've taken it and how much your body has adjusted to that foreign substance. Which of these is a withdrawal symptom? So good job to everyone. Yeah, increased anxiety is a very common withdrawal symptom, and unexplained happiness isn't really a symptom of many things, if anything. When after initially quitting a drug, a person returns to a drug, what is this called? Good job to everyone who got that right. A relapse is a return to normal or to an addiction. So yeah, that's just. Which of these websites can help you with drug addiction? Good job to everyone who got that right. And this website is a government institution, so we'll have the .gov suffix. Which of the following does recovering from a drug addiction affect? Good job to everyone who got that right. It can affect basically every single part of your life, all of your different types of healths. What does the story tell us about drug dependence? So good job to everyone who got that right. It basically just shows us that no matter who you are, no matter what your profession is, it is always possible to get addicted to drugs. So which of these is a method of prevention? So good job. Only taking the prescription prescribed to you is a good method of prevention. Never taking any prescription drugs is just going to leave you unhealthy for when you do have actual medical issues. And only taking drugs that are prescribed to you and your family, you are not the exact same as everyone in your family. So it's safer to just take stuff that is prescribed to you. So true or false, is addiction a disease? Good job to everyone. So what makes addiction different from dependence? There are two correct answers for this one. So the two correct answers are a compulsive or uncontrollable desire, and addiction is extremely unhealthy, while dependence is not necessarily bad, because while addiction is both physical and mental, dependence is just physical. So you can still get out of it. Is addiction a physical or a psychological disease? So addiction does take into a factor both your physical, so your body, and your mind, so your physiological. So good job to our winners. So in third place we have Judith. In second we have Christina. And first we have Chloe.
Okay, congratulations. You guys will also receive extra credits. But I think Christina, you already won one, so I can't give you like more than that. But let me go ahead and go back to the presentation real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, so that concludes our presentation. Thank you guys so much for coming. So before you guys leave, make sure you fill out the attendance form that I'm about to send through the chat. And so this is the way we're going to first like help verify your attendance. But we'll also be looking at like your participation as well. Give me 1 second. Let me get the link out and put it in the chat. Okay. And just note that if you are in SHH, you will have to fill out an extra portion of it. Okay. Where's my chat all? Okay, there we go. So here's the form. And so go ahead and fill that out, and then you guys may leave the meeting. If you guys also have any other questions, you can go ahead and type to the chat or just go ahead and ask if you have any curiosities. Kind of like a Q&A. But other than that, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you guys.
Ivan, NHS isn't on there.
NHS is not on the form? Okay, let me change that real quick. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, go ahead and refresh the page. There you go, I just added it in. I'll even add it. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.